Welcome back, guys. It's episode number 6 of Standing on Business. Today, I am joined by someone that you may definitely patronized one of his businesses here in Central New York, specifically Syracuse. I would say cultural landmarks in Armory Square, in the downtown area in Clinton Square. So today we have Alejandro Gonzalez, owner of Incas, owner of Margaritas, owners of tequilas, as well as some other projects loading in the barrel, you could say. Thank you so much for coming on with us today.
Thank you for having me here.
It's a pleasure to have a titan of industry, a titan of the service industry, and I love talking about business with people that have experience. I love learning more. I love kind of going into the not only just like everyone always likes to hyperfixate on numbers and people like to fixate on success, but I think you could agree with me on that the real story is in the process, the start, the grind, the kind of the struggle going into it and kind of going in there. So if you could just kind of introduce yourself, kind of give us a little more of a taste. I know I kind of quickly rambled on there in the beginning there, but give us a little taste of your kind of backstory of what brings you here today.
Well, it started back then when I started washing dishes, and then I saw how much money the waiters made, so I made it my goal to get where they were. That was like my goal back then. So I started taking the chips and salsa to the tables while I was still washing dishes, and then after that, they didn't want to teach me because at the time the jobs were pretty tight. So I had to just learn and kind of watch what they did, how they, carry themselves, and kind of just learn by looking at, like, watching what they did. And then after that, maybe 2 weeks I did that. I just made sure I got everything I could, without actually being taught. And then I quit and I went to another Mexican restaurant. And I told them I had experience and I got hired on the spot because that's what happened back then. If you said you had experience, you got hired on the spot. So I was the worst waiter in the world because I was never taught, but I told them that I knew what I was doing. But that's just how I did it. I faked it until I maked it, until to being a waiter. And then I quit there and I went somewhere else where I actually got trained. And then I became the best waiter in the world. But I started by just being the worst. And then after that, I got the opportunity to come to New York, to Syracuse, and I started making double the money just being a waiter. I used to work 6 days a week, sometimes seven, depending, not all the time, and 12-hour days. I didn't go anywhere. No going to dinner, no going to clubs, no going to bars, nothing like that. My expenses were really low. Uh, I had, a few roommates, so my rent was like maybe a couple $100 a month. I had in my car insurance, a couple $100 a month. I didn't have a car payment paid off. I ate at the restaurant, so I didn't have to spend money on food. So I was probably saving around 4,000, 4,500 a month, like cash. And I did that for a whole year. And every time people ask me what the secret is or things like that, there's really no secret to it. Obviously, working hard helps, but if you look around everywhere in everyone's, place of work, most of the people you work with work hard. Every now and then you'll see one or two that, are kind of lazy or whatever, but most people work hard. There's people who work harder than me. So the real secret is just taking risks, because anyone can work hard. I've seen a lot of people work harder than me, but like I said, I took the time to work hard, save the money, and then I risked it. Like I took the biggest risk, whether I could lose everything or double it, triple it, 10x it.
Yeah.
So it's just really taking risks and sacrifices. You sacrifice not having a nice apartment today or not having a nice car today, not having nice clothes today. For 5 years down the line, you have the best clothes or the best cars anyone can have. But yeah, it's just sacrifices and risks. Like if you don't take those two, it doesn't matter how hard you work. Like you'll still have a good life.
Yeah.
But if you want to be better or you want to be more successful or just have great things, you have to take risks and you have to sacrifice. Whatever you want today, you have to just let it go, but you'll get it back later on.
So tell us a little bit about that backstory. So you grew up in Michigan?
I was there until I was 8 years old, and then my parents took me to Mexico because they wanted me to live, I guess, a different life over there, where I didn't have any opportunities, or there was no money, there was no jobs. It was like a farm, so I had to do farm work. And yeah, that was like the idea that my parents had. They didn't want me to grow up in an environment like in the United States when I was a kid, and to grow up with opportunities and all these other things. They wanted me to grow up without them, so that way when I got here later on in my later teens, like I appreciated everything more, and I like took the opportunities that got to me, because over there I wasn't getting paid anything. So when I came to the United States and I was doing construction work or concrete or washing dishes, I was getting minimum wage, and I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
Like I'm making money.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the type of thing that I was so appreciative of, that even if it was $7.25 back then, I was like, oh my god, I'm making money.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was their idea.
Yeah, I think nowadays people just, especially now with, I'm sure you're very familiar with how much the cost of labor is now.
Yeah, it goes up
Just yeah, yeah,
all the time.
and it's crazy now. People just don't value, almost in a sense, the that like for me specifically as a business owner, sometimes you do have to, kind of work for free, almost in a sense, when you're starting something out, when you're starting a new business, new venture, before people trust you, before people really like,
Yeah.
be able to put value in, because they know that you can deliver. And I think a lot of times people jump into wanting to making the big bucks right away, wanting to have the flashy car and the nice things and the, all the nice possessions right away, because of social media, because of kind of the generation or the time that we live in. But so that process of the start, the moving here, and to Syracuse specifically, into New York, and the initial investment start, that was when you were still younger, or when, like, still when you're in your early 20s, as a teenager, or that kind of growth period, when did that kind of begin?
Well, it began when I knew it was attainable, because no one in my family, both my mom and dad's side, no one had ever had a business or anything. So I didn't know nothing about it. My parents, they worked for a living. They worked really hard, but nobody had a business. The only reason why I ever did this was because I overheard a conversation between my two bosses back then when I was a waiter. And I heard them say that it cost them like 350,000 at the time to open a restaurant. And I kind of made calculations in my own mind, and I'm like, there's no way I'll ever get that much money to open a restaurant. That's like 12 years of me not spending anything and just working. So I gave up on the spot. But then I overheard him say, "Oh, we're selling 10% to somebody," and then I stopped, and I came back, and I'm like, "Wait, you guys can do that?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "How much money do you need?" They're like, "Well, whatever 10% of the investment is." So I was like, "With 35,000, I could become a part of this." And they're like, "Yeah." So I like stood there for a minute. And I'm like, if I really put my foot down and I work double the hours, I can make this happen in 6 months, right? I can't make it happen working 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
But if I double the hours, I can get this money. So that's when it became attainable to me. Like a light bulb just went, like, turned on. And ever since then, it's just how it's been. Like I got the money. I was almost 20 years old when I did my first business here in North Syracuse. I invested like 25,000, and I got 10% of that business, and then I ran that for a year. I sold my shares, but I only got half the money I invested back, but I had saved all of my salary, which I had made like another 45,000. So I had like 55 to 60,000 saved up. And then my other business partner, he was a waiter too. He had another 50, 60,000. So we put our money together and we did margaritas. I opened that when I was 23. So, but my first ever restaurant, I was almost 20 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been a journey since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long has Margarita's been open?
6 years, going on to 7. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. How has that been? I mean, that's your first kind
Yeah.
of your first baby, you could say, fully yours, in downtown Syracuse. So I know it's definitely a local icon there in Armory Square. How is that process, becoming part of the community there, becoming a kind of a landmark, almost, if you will, of that space?
It feels great, honestly. It's been a journey because it's changed so much. because we started as just it was it's not what it looks like back then. It didn't look like it looks today. Like we started with just the 100,000 we had, and that was it. And we did all the work, all the construction work, all the painting, all the cleaning the kitchen, doing all that stuff. So we started with very little resources. It's not like today where we open, Incas or Rochester and we invest a ton of money in them. We didn't have that much money, so it was. I really appreciate Syracuse and the community because with their support, we were able to not use that money for ourselves, but use it to reinvest back into the restaurant and make it nicer. That's why it looks like today because we got so much support and we reinvested back into it and we doubled, tripled the size of it. We were probably like 4,000 square feet. Now we're almost 11.
Wow.
So we're 11,000 square feet. We have two kitchens. One is just for takeout and deliveries, and then one is for the customers. Like the branding, the drinks, the food, we always improve. Like every year we try to improve more. And every 3 years we try to redesign and do the decor better. So it's definitely changed a lot, and I appreciate everything that has come our way.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, what is something that people don't realize about the service industry? What is one big lesson that you've kind of learned over the course of the last decade of experience, you could say?
I would say it's the easiest business to go bankrupt.
In what way?
So the amount of overhead you have to have and the amount of money you have to invest to even have a chance at being successful, you need staff like right off the bat. Unless you're the cook and you're the waiter and then you do everything, but it's impossible.
Yeah.
Because me and my business partner tried to do that because in the beginning, when we opened, we didn't have our liquor license, so we were losing money every day. Because you have a restaurant that's called Margarita's Mexican Cantina
Yeah.
with no alcohol, no
Yeah.
margaritas, right? So we were losing money. So me and my business partner were like, we can't pay people, we can't pay anybody. So we didn't fire the waiters, but we laid them off because we're like, wait, we just don't have the money, we can't pay you guys. And then the cooks, we only had like a couple cooks. And like we tried to do that. We tried to do the hosting, the bartending, the everything. But I remember that day that we did that, it got busy the next day and we had to call everyone back. Like there's just no way you can do it unless you're a little mom and pop shop that's just, one person on the counter and one
Yeah.
person in the back. But
No
if you're,
wait staff, nothing like that. Yeah.
but if you're trying to do full service, it's the easiest business to go bankrupt. There's so many things that can go wrong because, like everything just depends on other people and they're serving other people and it's food, what I mean, people are very delicate when it comes to food. So it's definitely the easiest business to go bankrupt in. Like I would say 70% fail and then 30% that do make it, like 20% just make a salary, make a paycheck, they have a job. And then the 10%, which I'm blessed to be one of those where you can kind of hire managers to do it and you don't have to be there and you still make, money. That's like the 10%, I would say, but most don't make it there.
What's the stroke of luck, or do you think it's a certain element that you possess that someone is in that 10%? Is it something that they do, or is it something that you say is just kind of where do you kind of attribute the that result to?
That's an interesting question because it has changed. When I was younger, I had a little more ego. Right now, I'm more humble. So back then, I would tell you, it's all hard work, and this happened because of me and things like that. But now that I'm a little, older and more humble, like I would say, yeah, like if you work hard and all those things, those are elements to it. But you have to have some degree of luck to get the location, right? Because location is key. And so many people tried to get that location, but they couldn't. Like the landlord just didn't, and then we came along and we got it. So that right there, it could be considered luck. And if that would have never happened, nothing would have happened. Like
Yeah.
nothing that's happened today for us would have ever happened. So yeah, I would say there's some degree of luck. And then obviously, after that, how hard you work. It's like if you get the talents, but you don't put in the hard work, talent can only take you so long, so far. But if you have the talent and you put in the work, you'll go as far as you can.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes that we actually heard here on the podcast is that luck is a combination of opportunity and preparation. That you could have an amazing opportunity, but with zero preparation, it's an opportunity wasted. But you could be preparing for something, but never be given an opportunity. So it's almost in a sense, it's not that it's just, something randomly happens, but more in the sense that you're prepared and you're looking for opportunities to make it happen.
That is very true. Now that you point that out, I I can see myself saying that to like my employees sometimes and my family members because I'm always looking for more business partners. Like if I open another one, I'll give them 10 or 20% so I can run it and things like that. They have to have some kind of money. Not a lot, just some kind where your skin's in the game, right? I don't want people just thinking like, "Oh, I can just do this and if it doesn't work out, no,
Yeah.
like you have to make it work."
Yep.
But yeah, it's funny that you say that because that's literally what I tell everyone. I'm like, look, right now, just work, save your money, keep your expenses low. And that right there is preparation. Preparation is money, right? If you worked, you saved your money, now you have, I don't know, 10, 20,000, 30,000 saved up. That is the preparation. Because then if I come to you with an opportunity, I'm like, hey, I found this location. Do you want to be a part of it? If you tell me, hey, I have $0, I mean, what do you want, a job? You
Yeah.
know? But if you tell me, oh, I got 30 grand saved up, okay, like you're putting some skin in the game now. So that right there, what you just said is like the truth is like if you worked, saved your money, that is your preparation. Now the opportunity comes, which is me or anyone else that can just come to you and be like, hey, I found this location. I have this idea. Now you can invest into it. And that's the opportunity. So yeah, you're right about that.
That's I'll give credit where credit is due. So that's actually Kyle, owner of Forum Barbershop. So right around the corner
Okay.
from you guys. He shared that to us a couple months back on the podcast. When it comes to also with his location as well, because he's actually one street over from you guys. But I find it interesting that you always say about that 10%. Like to me, it sounds like something minimal, almost in a sense, like 10% of a business. What can you kind of accomplish there? But can you give me a little bit deeper into there? That 10%, initial ownership stake that you had, and that you say that when you looking for a partner, somebody being, coming on, usually people think like, 50%, 40% this. Can you give me a little bit of the philosophy behind kind of cutting people in on a small share like that?
Well,
Or maybe I'm thinking about incorrectly. Maybe 10% is huge.
well, it can be depending on the business. Like I said, a little mom and pop shop, you're gonna get $500 a month. That's whatever. But if you have a really successful, it's kind of just like the bigger companies, like where you have 0.01% of shares, but it's worth hundreds of millions or something, or just hundreds of thousands. It depends on what kind of business. Like if it's a nice, like sit down restaurant, you can make good money. Uh, and also depends how much money you have. If you want 20, 30%, that's fine, but you have to have the money. I can't just give that to anybody
Yeah,
because nothing was given to me.
of course.
So that's just my philosophy. If nothing was given to me, it doesn't matter if it's my sister or my cousin or whoever it is, like you have to have the money. I'm not just going to give it to you. You know, that will make you work harder and that will make you make the
Appreciate it. Yeah.
business successful. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about the process. So you opened up margaritas, that kind of initial having to lay the work staff off, but then kind of tell me about the turnaround, I guess, the point where it has grown and gone to where it is today.
I guess I've never said this to anybody, but we were 3 days away from going bankrupt, like closing, right? So we didn't have any investors, we didn't have banks, we didn't have money, we didn't have nothing. Like our credit cards were maxed out, business was in debt like 20 grand. It was a Monday, right? It was a Monday, and I remember it, and I looked at my business partner. I'm like, look, we're gonna shut down. There's no way we can make it because we were losing like a grand a day at the time, and this was with minimal staff, just skeleton crew. We were not paying ourselves for. I didn't pay myself like for a whole year. Like we were not making anything. So I remember I went to the office. I got on my knees and I prayed to God, and I told him that like if he gave us this liquor license, which was was taking too long, but at the time we didn't have much money, so we couldn't make the business keep going to wait. And I prayed to God and I told him that like if he granted me this, you know, I would I wanted him to help everyone around me first, like all my employees, my family, customers. I wanted the restaurant to be good. And whatever was left over, I would take it. But I didn't want anything for myself. And I prayed and we got it that Thursday.
Wow.
They were going to mail it to us, right? But you can't do liquor orders on the weekends. So I was like, yeah, there's no way we're going to survive. We're either going to have to find a money shark or something to get the hard cash. And I told him, like, no, I'll drive to Albany to get it. So I drove there, got it in time, sent the picture to the liquor rep. And liquor, you don't have to pay for it up front. You pay for it, the following week with credit.
Yep.
So we were so lucky on that, and we ordered all the liquor. And that weekend we paid off all the debt. It was like $20,000 in debt.
Wow.
And ever since then, we've always made money. So that's a very interesting time for me. Like we were from like 3 days from going bankrupt, and probably me going into another state, my business partner going somewhere else to find a job again.
Yeah.
And then it turned around, and we created this empire.
So for a business, having a liquor license for a restaurant business is very important to have. Do you think do you think is there even a model of a restaurant, of a sit down restaurant, or any kind of model that could work without that, or because that it seems like it's a very core element to the business.
No, it can work. It just depends on the concept you're doing. And the concept that we did was we named the business
Margaritas.
an alcoholic drink. So, and when people go to a sit down Mexican restaurant that's nice like that, they're expecting to drink tequila, margaritas, mojitos, you name it, And if you did like a concept where it's takeout, like you order your food, that's what you're basing it off. But we were basing it off alcohol. And we have the college there, and we have all the people that come downtown. And at the time, it was a big hub for bars and stuff.
Yep.
So it depends on the concept. And in a sit down restaurant, the profits on food are maybe 5%. You know what I mean? Alcohol is where we make our money. If we don't sell alcohol, we make literally zero money. And it might be different in maybe in other restaurants like Italian, pizza or pasta might be a little cheaper to make. So it might be different in other businesses. But for Mexican, you got avocados, tomatoes, like chicken, steak, ribeye, all that stuff. It's expensive. So our margins in food are very, very low. Alcohol is where we make the money. That's really the key right there. But yeah, you can definitely open businesses just selling food, and they'll be fine. It's just depending on the concept. You have to have less staff. Obviously the staff in those places will probably make a little less. You don't need to train as much. So yeah, you can still make it without it.
So you said you mentioned this, and I found this interesting. You said at the time it was a spot or a hub, like the bar scene and whatnot. Has it changed since opening, or has it kind of shifted in a certain way
Yeah, it's shifted a little bit. There's more restaurants now than bars down there.
in downtown?
Yeah, there's more restaurants definitely. I mean, we have two, and a few more have opened. So it's more like people still come down to drink, but I feel like it's more like a restaurant scene now. And like people are not drinking as much nowadays too. Like the younger generation are just not drinking as much. I don't know what it could be. Maybe marijuana was legalized, something.
Yeah.
I can't really point it out.
Tough to pinpoint there. But as a whole, what are your thoughts on the kind of downtown Syracuse, just the atmosphere here in Central New York in general, kind of over this period of time now, owning multiple businesses as well. So clearly you have a vision of investing into this place. You see that there's a potential into it. Can you kind of give me your philosophy there?
There's definitely money to be made. I feel like you just have to give the people what they want, like the service, the food, the drinks. But yeah, we create kind of that atmosphere, and we create the environment for people to come down and, have some food, a nice drink, and just take their stress away from their job. So we take all that stress away. And no, yeah, I think it's going to grow. It's going to keep growing because, there's a lot of development. There's like bigger companies like Micron coming in. So it's definitely going to keep growing.
At what point do you kind of make that decision to like, hey, margaritas is going well. This concept works. And kind of was the next step Incas after that? That was the next restaurant open, or was there is there some steps in between there, or what was the kind of the light bulb? Hey, we've got this figured out now. It's at a healthy point. We should do something more.
Well, actually, after margaritas, we did margaritas in Rochester. So that was like a year and a half after we opened margaritas here in Syracuse. So we had those two. And then Incas was more like a surprise thing. It was like there's already a lot of Mexican restaurants around here.
Yeah.
So why are we going to open another one? We need something different. And we don't want to compete with ourselves. So we decided to do Peruvian fusion. But I mean, it's a little bit of everything, right? So we have pasta, steak, chicken, fish, Peruvian stuff, American stuff. It's not all based on that. We try to cater to what the customer actually wants in this area, not just what people eat in Peru. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We try to just make everyone happy here.
Yeah,
So
Peruvian cuisine in general is a very interesting cuisine too,
yeah,
because in and of itself is fusion. You know, a
yeah,
lot of the Japanese influences in
mm-hmm,
there. That's so it's a really cool concept there.
mm-hmm,
The setting and the menu itself is really interesting. Like there's quite literally exactly like you put it. There's something for everybody there.
yep,
If you're looking for your classic lomo saltados, you got it. If you're looking for some more kind of the Japanese influence that the
mm-hmm,
Japanese immigrants had in Peru, you have that as
mm-hmm,
well. You have your classics, your steaks and whatnot. So it's a lot of opportunities there with a
yeah.
concept like that. So how do you kind of come up with that idea initially? How do you come up with that kind of like, hey, we have enough of a certain idea because you could have opened another margaritas on the other side of town or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the thing? What's the kind of light bulb moment of like, hey, we should bring something fresh, something new into the atmosphere here? Because as far as I know, there's not any other type of Peruvian restaurant in the downtown area.
Well, we have our other business partner Mario. He like same story like us. He just left where he was working, had some money saved up, and he told us about it. He's like, "Why don't we do a Peruvian restaurant?" And that's really where it stemmed. After that, we're like, "Yeah, why not? Let's do that." So me and him, we drove, or we drove to the Hamptons to this food expo, Peruvian food expo, and that's where we met Flavio, which was our chef. So international chef, used to cook for the White House. He was pretty famous, has his own TV show. So we hired him to do our menu, and uh, then we got a mixologist from New York City, and it just kind of blended in. We did it right, We made sure we didn't just kind of open and just free for all. Like we trained everybody right, tasted everything before we served it. All the drinks too. We made sure that the timing was right because you can make this is what I try to tell people sometimes with cooking and drinks. You can make a fantastic drink, but how long did it take you? You can make a great meal, probably better than mine, what I serve at my restaurant, but how long will it take you? 30 minutes? 40 minutes? What if you get 10 orders? You're not
Yeah.
going to be able to make it. Your customers are going to be all mad. So you have to make sure that your timing is right. You know, even if you have to sacrifice sometimes a little bit of that freshness just to try to get, the food out and people are not, so mad. Whether it's you have to cook it faster or buy better kitchen equipment that is, will cook faster because that does make a difference. When you get cheap equipment and things just, you know, go with the flow or you need it quick. So how long it takes you to get it to the table is a big factor. So I mean, you have to make something great, and it also has to be realistic with the timing. You can't just take an hour to make something and it's the best meal in the world. But yeah, you have 300 people to serve.
Yeah.
You have to get it out in time.
What do you think is I guess, it's easy to say have good food, have good drinks, have a clean atmosphere, have a nice, but what's the thing that kind of propels a concept forward as opposed to just kind of stagnating being, what's the thing that keeps something fresh and on top of people's mind that has them coming back and back again and being return customers as well as, having their friends and family come by? What do you think is that kind of secret?
It's interesting because it shifted because of social media, like you said, like Instagram and all that. Like the industry shifted where it used to just be like, as long as you can get some good food, right, and with at a reasonable price, some good drinks, decent service, okay atmosphere, you're good. But things shifted now. Things have to be a lot more visually appealing. Like there's been some restaurants that I go to, like I've been to like the Toronto and Montreal, that look amazing, so amazing that you have to wait for a table, like, and like they don't take reservations. They're so busy. But then you try the food and it's so bad. Like, and not trying to say anything bad about anyone. Like I eat all kinds of foods, so for me to say something is bad, it has to be really bad.
Yeah.
So I go into these places and they're beautiful, but their food sucks, and then their like staff is not trained. But then you see how visually appealing it is that people will still go back, whether they don't get the food that they want, but they just want to bring their friends there. They want to take a picture for Instagram. They just want to feel like a rock star. What do they
Yeah.
call it?
Part of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it is in like Miami too. There's a lot of these some famous restaurants that I don't want to name, but like they're so beautiful and they cost probably $10 million. But you go in and the food sucks, but it's visually so appealing. So it's definitely shifted now. Now we have to invest so much more money. Like the new ones we're opening, we have to invest so much more money in decor, where we used to not have to do that. You paint, you put some decorations up, you make it feel and look like whatever the concept you're doing, whether it's Mexican or Chinese or Italian. But nowadays you have to imagine, like you have to get a designer, all these things to make it work. So now you have to invest $500,000 to $1 million to open a place. Where back in the day, you 50,000, 100,000, you're good to go. It's become so much more expensive, and it's so hard to please the customer now. Which back then, like I said, as long as you give them okay food, decent drinks, decent service, they're fine. Now everything has to be over the top, especially with the atmosphere. That's what they want. People want to bring their parents, their friends, their coworkers, their girlfriend, their wife to a beautiful place. That's just what it's all about nowadays. And I try to not just focus on that. I always try to improve the food and the drinks, and I'm always trying to be on top of the servers, like make sure they're doing their job correctly. And I also focus a lot on the atmosphere. So I always try to focus on all four keys, which, like I told you, other places that I've been to personally, it's just the atmosphere. Everything sucks, but they have the best atmosphere in the city. Everyone's going to continue to keep going.
Do you think that that's almost a social commentary about us as a society? That it's just, it doesn't matter about the substance anymore, but it's just if it has a nice look to the outside of it, that it'll still have people coming back and back again.
I feel like to a certain extent, obviously, if you're just serving horrible food and your servers are the worst people on earth, you're gonna close. But I mean, if it's still edible and your staff is not like screaming at people or cussing people out, and you have the best atmosphere, I mean, you're gonna have people coming back.
Yeah, a lot of times people are just doing something for the gram now.
Yeah.
That's quite literally all of that. We were in the city about I think a couple months ago, and there's I don't know if you've seen on Instagram, just the sushi pop up rolls. We stood in line. It was like maybe 10 degrees outside. We stood in line for 3.5 hours, and we were the very last ones at the door before they closed. Look, so we were gonna be the last ones with that stood the line and then not get to go in. Luckily enough, they were also where I'm Ukrainian. They were also, I think, either Ukrainian or Russian or something like that. We started talking with them, chatting them up. The guy at the door actually was Ukrainian as well, and luckily they were able to get us in for one roll. Um, it was all right, but it's the notion that all these hundreds of people stand in line for hours a day. And I was there recently, like last weekend or 2 weekends ago, and we walked past and same deal. People were there wrapped around the block waiting for hours and hours. The role in itself isn't something groundbreaking. It's not, mesmerizing, but they've made that yeah, that concept something unique, something innovative, that you want to get that Instagram picture of you pushing the sushi pop through, and all of a sudden it's worth it to sit there for 4 hours.
I mean, I kind of did that too when I went to California and I tried In-N-Out Burger.
In and out's
I,
great
I
though.
was so excited to take a picture with it, even though it's just like trendy. You know, you make
Yeah.
something trendy, and even though In-N-Out is really good, I
Yeah.
love In-N-Out. But kind of like what you're saying is you make something trendy, and people just want to go there.
Something
You know,
fresh, something exciting. People, I feel like, and this is just true of anything in business nowadays, people want to be um, enamored. They want to be wowed. They want to have it's less about necessarily the deliverable of what they're getting in front of them. So in your case, food, in our case, media, video, etc.
yeah,
And they want the experience. They want the nice lighting. They want the nice cameras. They want you to feel like it's a production. They want to, and which is important. I think it's a really big part of it. One of the books that one of our podcast guests recommended to me to read is Setting the Table by Danny Meyer, who opened up a lot of restaurants in the city, and then Shake Shack. He's the founder of Shake Shack, and that's one of the big things that he talks about in his book is just people. People will forget about the quality of the food. They'll forget about the quality of the product, I think, but they'll never forget how you made them feel in and out of that process, the vibe that you bring to the table, the kind of the atmosphere that you build for them, and the care and detail to their experience there. I wanted to ask kind of what's the what's the thing that kind of gets you up in the morning? What's the thing that gets you excited about, doing these things? Once you get to that point, or I guess that level of success, is there a certain point that you reach that you're like, I'm content, I'm happy, or are you a person that's kind of always hungry, we're looking for new ways to expand, new ways to grow, or what's the thing that kind of gets Alejandro out of bed in the morning?
uh, I don't know if I'm the same or I'm a little different than people, but for me, I like to take breaks. So after I had my initial success with margaritas and the one in Rochester, I started buying properties and stuff like that. But that's not a lot of work. You know, you buy properties, you put a tenant in, and that's it. You know, you don't have to worry about it. Uh, but that was kind of my break. I just bought a bunch of cars and had the properties, but didn't really have to do anything with them. They just they just run themselves. So that to me was like my break. Just bought a bunch of cars, traveled, was with my family a little bit, uh, started getting in better shape, like doing boxing or just going to the gym in general. And then just you get that light bulb again, and you're like, okay, now we got to do this, and we're gonna do this, and it's enough chill time. We gotta start again. So then I sold some cars, and then I opened more businesses, because the more things you have that kind of make you happy and make you content is actually not a good thing. It's a bad thing. So when you're trying to grow, at least in my opinion, the the more things you have that are nice are gonna like hinder your success, because you're gonna try to like either do those things, drive those things, eat those things, whatever it could be, and it's gonna slow your progress. That's why like this past year, if you see like some of my training videos, I'm in this old gym basement, with spiders and you know spider webs and all this stuff. But that environment is what helps me grow even more. Those types of environments, selling my cars and just kind of focusing. Not having anything that can take my energy or take me away, take me here. Just stay focused. I feel like it's what I do. I just like to take breaks sometimes and enjoy life. And then sometimes I'm just all in 100%, where I don't have to worry about anything but just doing whatever my task is, whether it's opening another restaurant or buying more properties or, opening a different business. I just focus 100%.
Do you think moving back to Mexico during your kind of formative years, and like you said, kind of going back to not having those opportunities so that you would appreciate those opportunities more, do you think that that's something that you kind of look back onto even today, or what did that kind of show you or illustrate that for you?
I'll forever look back on that. I mean, I thank my parents for making that decision, because that really just made me appreciate it. Anything like a dollar to me. You know, Back in the day, I would tell my bosses, pay me less, but I want to work more hours. And it doesn't make sense in the way that you think, but to me, it made sense because I was like, well, if I work more hours, I won't have time to spend it. I won't have time to go anywhere and spend it.
Yeah.
Even if they pay me a little less or they don't pay me the overtime. I was always like, just don't pay me the overtime. Just pay me the regular hours. Give me 60, 70 hours. and don't pay me the overtime. I just want to work more, and that way I don't have time to go do anything else, and I don't have time to spend it. And nowadays it's more like I want to work 10 hours and I want to get $100 an hour. You know, people don't want to work more. They just want more money, but they want to work less, or they want easier stuff. Like everyone nowadays wants to be, you know, some artist, YouTuber, something like that. You know what I mean? Which, like I said, for 10% of the people, 5% of the people, it works. But the rest, there's tons of things to do. You could have your own plumbing business, your own, you know, you can be an electrician. You can do so many things that can make you hundreds of thousands of
Yeah.
dollars or millions if you have your own business.
I think what's a lot of people don't realize is those people that are YouTubers and bloggers and artists and whatnot, they're grinding and hustling as hard, if not harder than the other people. They're the ones that are successful.
Yeah.
I think people just want the easy way out a lot of
Hmm.
times.
And they also started, you know, early on.
Yep.
You know, it's like right now, if someone tries to come compete with us, you know, at Margaritas or anything I open, like I invested $1 million into it. If someone comes in with the money I came in back in the day, you're just gonna be crushed. You know, so if you, there's two things: either you do it first, you know what I mean, or you have to start early, because if you start when everyone else is doing it, so if there's 20 Mexican restaurants now and you open a Mexican restaurant, why would people go to you?
Yeah.
You have to either invest more money into it and make it nicer, make it better. If you come with a like small investment, you know, you're going to be crushed. So things like that, it's just you have to pick your battles.
Funny, kind of, I guess, interesting point that you bring up there. So I remember if you go back, let's call it 10 years, like I'm just gonna talk Camillus right now. You could probably, if I'm not mistaken, there was probably one Mexican restaurant. Now within 15 miles of our office here, there's four Mexican restaurants, and which is the same with downtown, which is the same with north side, east side, west side, of Syracuse. There's a ton of different options. How do you stay different? How do you stay ahead? How do you differentiate yourself? Well, first thing, the question is there enough space in the market for everyone? Well, clearly, because everyone's, surviving in a sense, but to what level, I guess, is for you as a business owner, do you kind of say, hey, are we surviving? Are we thriving? Are we growing? How do you stay ahead, I guess?
Well, back then it was an interesting time because during COVID, a lot of places shut down, and we were the only ones that stayed open because me, like I said, me and my business partner, we were not paying ourselves, and we didn't have any overhead for ourselves. Like our expenses were nothing. So we stayed serving and doing takeout and all that during that time, and a lot of places closed. So we technically started from ground zero, but we were already open by the time everyone catch up to us. Didn't matter what restaurant it was, of any cuisine. By the time they got staff and they just wanted to reopen again, we were already 6, 8 months ahead. And by that time, we were using the money we were getting, the big surplus, to reinvest back into the business and lease out the other side and make the bar better and then make the kitchens better. We only had one small kitchen back then, which was, probably the size of this office, like half of the size. And then we turned that little kitchen in just to go and deliveries. And then we made a big kitchen for just customers. So we were ahead of everyone. And instead of using that money to, like I said, buy nice cars, we reinvested it back into the business. And then by the time everyone was even making something, we were already way ahead. Everything was perfect. We had reinvested back into the food, training the staff better, getting someone to help us make the items, the ingredients, all that stuff, the drinks. So we stayed open during COVID. We made a ton of money that year. We used that money to reinvest it back into the business, and then we were way ahead. So nowadays, like I said, if there's 20 Mexican restaurants around and you do a little investment, you're just gonna get crushed by everybody. So you have to definitely pick your battles where you open, and that is my strategy nowadays. Everywhere I'm opening, like in other states where I open, I always pick the places with the least or none amount of competition because I know I can make the most money quick. And by the time someone else opens another one, I'll already be ahead of the curve. So definitely, yeah, it's tough nowadays to get into a market where there's already a ton of them. I'm sure you know that if there's 20 media
Of
companies,
course, yeah,
and you come in fresh to start one,
yeah,
you're gonna struggle a little bit.
of course. What's the I guess what's nowadays, what's the thing that's kind of differentiating you guys? If someone's kind of looking for, do you find that, brand loyalty or customer loyalty is a big thing? You have a lot of repeat customers. Is it a certain vibe or a certain maybe kind of atmosphere that you're creating there, or is it something specific about your clientele that keeps them coming back?
There's a lot of variables, but I would say the two that really keep a customer coming back, as far as like consistency, you just have to be consistent, and you have to update things, right? So maybe your food wasn't the best last month or last year, but you have to do something about it. You have to keep making it better, or at least trying to make it better. Same thing with drinks, right? If a few customers complain about that drink last year, you got to find out a way to either put something new or make that better. And same with the service. Like I said, if you stay on top of your staff, and they have to do a good job, so you have to be consistent, and then you have to do updates. Like don't leave the place like it was in the 1990s. You have to. We try to update every business we have every 3 years. 3 to 4 years is like the max we'll do. And we always do like either a complete remodel or partial remodel, but you always have to. People move away, you know. People are here temporarily or here on vacation, so you have to update, because then you get fresh people in. So you have to always stay updated.
I know I noticed that whenever we talked about the businesses, you always mention partners. Um i- is there a specific, I guess, well, of course you can always raise more capital when you have more people involved in the ownership group. But do you prefer working with a team as opposed to a solo? Do you have any operations that you solely own, or is it you like to bring people on board with you?
Well, the only thing I do by myself is my real estate company. That's just all me, like all the rental properties and buildings and things like that. That's just something that's mine. I always try to keep that, just for myself. But everything else, I always try to have partners, because it's hard to do, especially when you have a lot of moving parts. It's hard to do it. So you should always have, other people that have a piece of the pie, so that you can make it more efficient. And there's other people that some ideas are probably better than yours, and then maybe some your ideas are probably better than them. And that's, you get into this medium where, okay, this sounds good, this doesn't sound good, let's do this. And you kind of agree on the vision, you know. So I feel like I do like having partners for those types of businesses. For the real estate, I mean, it's just me. I mean, there's not a lot to do. You have a property manager, maybe a couple of them, a desk person, and that's it. And yourself. You don't have a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
You know.
Is there a certain kind of secret sauce you're looking for in a partner? What's the one, I guess, what's the one red flag in a person that's wanting to partner with you, or looking for a partner that it would be like, I'm gonna stay away from this operation?
Someone that talks about money a lot is not good. Like
In which way?
someone that's like too ambitious. Because I mean, I don't know how to say greedy.
Hmm.
Like someone that just wants,
Money for the sake of money.
yeah. Because I never really did it for the money. You know, like I told you, when I prayed to God, I told him I don't want anything. Whatever is left, just give it to me. If there's nothing left, then I won't take anything. I never really did it for the money. I mean, nowadays, that I have money, I buy nice things for myself, but this is 10 years after I sacrificed so much, my health, my time, stress. I mean, I didn't go to any of my sister's graduations. I mean, I had cousins that got married. I, paid for some stuff for their weddings, and I was supposed to be present, never made it. So I missed all those things, even starting a family. Like I couldn't have anyone to care for, because I had so many things to do, and I was always working. So I knew if I put myself and that person in that position, it wouldn't have worked. So it would have just been a headache. So I just chose to stay away from, finding someone. And yeah, like I just missed every single family thing you can think of. uh Holidays, like holidays to me were nothing. It doesn't matter if it was Christmas or it was New Year's, it was Thanksgiving. Like, I just had, one goal was just to do what I had to do and work. So yeah, I definitely sacrificed 10 years of everything you can think of. It could have been simple things like, let's go get a drink tonight. I'm like, no, I can't. No, I gotta stay on top of things. I gotta stay focused. That's been my life for 10 years. Like, the first time I went to a sit down restaurant myself to eat like a steak, I was probably like 23, 24 years old. Before that, I only knew like McDonald's and Burger King and things like that, because I was so frugal that I always tried to stay in the cheapest elements so I could have more money to either sustain myself when the business wasn't doing good. So that's kind of my life. I didn't have the life that other people have, where they experience going out to drink or going to bars or going to clubs. Like, I only went to a club once before I opened my own club. So I had only gone to a club before just one time. I remember I was broke back then. I could barely afford the entry fee to get in. I
Hmm.
was probably 18 or 19 years old. That was the only time I ever went. And then after that, it was when I opened my club that, I had a nightclub. But yeah, it was I missed so many things and so much sacrifice. So yeah, someone that's definitely greedy, you don't want on your team.
Is that so? What would be the factor? So you mentioned someone that's willing to sacrifice, someone that's willing to get into the crap with you, almost in a sense. What other kind of elements are you looking for in someone that's right for the team, right for the ownership group?
I mean, if you have some money, you have skin in the game, you're willing to risk it, that's a very good quality. A lot of people just want sweat equity, and I believe that to a certain extent, but there's just nothing like having your own money in the game. Like, there's nothing compared. And I learned this by experience because I opened a pizza shop downtown. It was like 4 years ago or 5 years ago. And I gave my business partners at the time 50%, 25 each, 25% each, without them putting a single dime in the game. I just told them, just do the recipes and run the place, and that's it. I'll take 50%. And I put all the money in. Place failed in like 3, 4 months.
Wow.
They were just fighting with each other. Some wouldn't show up. They would close early. It was a mess. So I just decided to shut it down. I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. That was the last time I was like, I'll never do this in my life. You have to have some skin in the game. If you want sweat equity, you gotta wait until I make it successful, and then you can pay a premium for what you're buying. But I'm not gonna.
Just give it away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I learned by experience. Yeah, expensive one.
What are some other expensive lessons you've learned over the course of your years in business?
Sometimes cutting corners isn't the best thing. Like, to save, a few dollars. Me and my business partner both, we learned the hard way. Like, sometimes we would try to, like, do things cheaper, not with like food or anything, or nothing involved with that, but like, let's say construction wise, you pick the guy that's the cheapest, but then he'll bail on you, and now it's more expensive to redo it. So we definitely learned that sometimes paying a little more, and getting the safer guy is better. But the riskier, cheaper, yeah, no, we definitely learned a lesson on those.
Yeah, it's a lot of times, we try to cut corners and we try
Yep.
to, try to do something, but yeah, there's a reason why things are priced at the way that they're priced.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on kind of community partnerships or being part of the, having almost in a sense being a part of the local community? Is that a core element to a service business, or do you find that as long as you have a good product and good a good thing going, people will come, or is it more about creating those, long standing relationships with people?
And there's variables in all of it, but since day one, I've always been involved with the community a lot. Whether we donate or we do a lot of stuff with SU. You know, we pay a certain amount to be able to use their logo in our restaurant, and but they also promote us on all their basketball games, sometimes the football games, things like that. So we've always been involved with them. Same thing with like the hotels. Like I like to, there's this company that, you pay a certain amount a month and then they put you on all their hotels and you get more exposure, kind of like advertising in a sense. But yeah, we're always donating, people that come in and need a donation for some foundation and stuff like that. We donate to those a lot. We're definitely very involved with the community.
Yeah. I think the people aspect is very important in any business. I think if you don't have that connection to people, you could have a great product. And not that many people can be the what's the word, the scorned artist, the kind of the person that's a little bit weird, or in a sense, like you have a good product, but the you have to have the personability, the character to have people come by and connect and be part of that. What's next for you? What's kind of the thing that's on the horizon? I know you said you had about four ventures kind of in the barrel. Anything new and exciting coming for Syracuse, or these more abroad?
Yeah, I mean, I'm flying to Italy tomorrow, like I told you, to get the chef for the Lakeshore project. That's gonna be really good here in Cicero. So hopefully we bring back a chef with us and we make something really exciting there. It's the best view you can ever have, just on the lake. And then we're doing another Mexican restaurant upscale in Fayetteville, completely brand new redesign. Indoor outdoor bar with the garage doors, people can flow in and out. It's gonna be really nice. And then we're doing Auburn. It's gonna be more of a Chipotle style type, more of, you come in and you order and it's more faster, fast casual. And then I have another one I have my eye on, but this I haven't signed anything yet, so this is still in the air. The other three are for sure gonna happen. But there's another one I'm looking at in Detroit. It's a three-story restaurant. It's right next to the stadium, the two stadiums,
Hmm.
and it's a really intriguing location. So that's still in the air, but I would love to do that. It's interesting and it's a big project too.
Very cool. What's the factor or something that kind of draws you into a certain location or a certain space?
I just kind of know, when you have that gift to just look at something and be like, yeah, this location is great, or the clientele here would be great. It's just by eye. You just have to look at it. It's just by eye.
Just feel it.
You just feel it. Yeah, it's like an instinct. It just kicks in. Like this location is a gold mine. Just just kicks in
Do you think that's something that most people possess, or you think that's something that just has come over time with intuition, with experience?
with experience for sure. Yeah, I don't think when I was younger, there's definitely no way I could look at something. I mean, there's been some movies if I could remember the name of it, but they're like there's these two guys driving in this car, and then one of them tells the other one, "Look out the window, and what do you see?" He's like, "A bunch of houses and cars." He's like, "No, that's money. That's all money." He's able to see the opportunity, while this person is he can't. He just can't see it. He just sees a bunch of cars and houses. Well, this person sees dollar signs,
Yeah.
and that definitely came with experience. This is something that I don't think anyone's born with. That you kind of have to, you know, be successful and also fail to know what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. Something that just doesn't kind of just come to someone. That comes with going through those hard lessons,
Yeah.
going through those hard experiences, and then coming out on the other side. What's I guess we name our podcast Standing on Business. And the kind of the idea is that, what's the thing that you stand on? What's the core principle at the end of the day? This is the value, this is the kind of the rule or the ethic that, like, this is the one thing that defines me as a person, as a business owner. um we always like to kind of throw that out there as a challenge question for our guests.
For me, I guess it's not that hard. It's just my family, like my parents. Like I just, I do this for them. Everything that I've done is for them. Like if it wasn't for them, I just have a regular job. I'd be happy with that. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's just having to take care of them. Like when I was 16, I had to, start taking care of them and my sisters. So I had responsibilities when I was, in my teens already. So I had to find a way to make more money. I couldn't just, you know, accept whatever. I had to learn. I had to get the skills I had to get the experience, whether it meant I would get screwed over in business one time just so I can get the experience, because sometimes that's what you got to do. You just have to risk your money knowing that you're going to lose it, but you're going to gain the experience. And I just had to do those things because they're the ones that drive me, and I do everything for them. Like, if I didn't have them, I'd be just happy with one business or just a good paying job. That's it. But they're the reason why I do what I do. And I also saw how much they suffered and they sacrificed back in the day. So I just want to give them everything that they couldn't have because they had us at the time. So I just want to give back to, my family. So that's what I stand on. Just I'm very family oriented.
Very important to have connection to where you come from and where your roots are, and because those are the people, friends will come, business partners will come, all these things, but family is always there at the end of the day. They're the ones that are going to be through the thick and thin. And yeah, that's a really good thing to stand on.
Yeah, that's what I stand on. There's nothing else. There's any luxuries you've seen in my life, any flashy stuff you might see. I buy it because I like it, but I don't care about showing it off to anyone or nothing like that. I just buy it because I like it. But the thing that drives me is just family. That's just what will always keep me going. You know.
What's I guess, at what point do you say to yourself, you talk about coming from like kind of frugal beginnings, not wanting to spend any money. At what point do you kind of make that decision to yourself of like, I got it, like we're in a good place? Do you find yourself like it's a certain number or a certain element that like, and why I asked this question, um, for someone that's starting a business, for someone that's, getting into going, and, you start seeing some money coming in, and you start seeing, some stuff, coming in your direction. At what point are you able to comfortably say like, okay, now we can enjoy life a little bit. Now we can, you know, do things. Is there a certain metric of like, I won't spend this much amount of money, or like, what kind of guidelines do you kind of live by in there?
Um, I have an interesting metric system with that part. I've been asked this before by my managers. The way I do it is I don't buy anything for myself or any luxuries or any vacations or any cars or anything if it's not like my real estate money, because all my houses are paid off. Like I bought them in cash. Everything I have, that's for sure money I'm going to get every month, right? I've never had to evict a tenant in 4 5 years. So that's always money that's coming in. Like I know that if I were to lose everything, I can still stand on this and I can still pay my bills and I can still live luxury, like with luxuries. Anything that I make from a volatile business or anything that's leased, because all my restaurants are leased. I don't own any buildings. I know that any of that can go away tomorrow, right? There's so many things, there's so many things that could happen in a business where you get sued or you never know what can happen. So the money that I make from restaurants, I use it to buy properties. Whatever the property produces me in rent, that's what I use to buy luxuries for myself. So that's the metric that I do. It's not really about an amount. It's whatever that produces. The restaurants produce me money. I buy properties. Those properties produce me money, and that's the money that I use for myself. So that's when that's when I knew. Like when I had a few of them, I had a few properties. I'm like, you know what? This money is coming in every month. Even if one tenant leaves, which has never happened, but even if one of them leaves, I still have plenty. I just get another tenant. That is my metric. Like whatever I make in real estate, that is actual money. Whatever I make in restaurants or any volatile business, anything I lease, that is not actual money. You got to use that to buy things that would produce you actual money.
Is that a preference, or is that a strategic decision not to own any of the locations, or rather to lease it, or that's just the nature of the business?
Well, it's just they're expensive. Those buildings are $6 million, $8 million, and at the time, we didn't have that type of money. And we didn't have the financials or the credit. Because the banks want to see, like if you're self-employed, they want to see 3 4 years of tax returns.
Yeah.
And when we started these businesses, we didn't have anything. We just had a W-2 year before that. So you were definitely not going to get a loan for that. Even with the business income, you wouldn't get it. You would need to show a few years, but by then I already had amassed an amount of property, so I was like, it doesn't make sense for me to pay millions and millions of dollars for even if my business is there. I rather buy things that are all mine, 100% mine. Like the houses are all mine, and I know that whatever happens over here, I will always have this. So I'm not afraid if I lose all of that because I still have this that's backing me. I'll be fine. That's just kind of how it was. I just know how volatile business can be, especially in restaurants. Like I said, like you have 70% that fail, 20% that have a job and a paycheck, and then 10% that actually can hire managers to do it, and they still make a lot of money. So I know how lucky I am, and also how hard I work for it.
Of course.
That's why if I do make a lot, I don't want to just spend it on dumb things.
Hmm.
I want to invest first in properties, and then whatever that produces me, then I can go buy a nice car or go on a nice vacation. But whatever, I don't know if you've heard some athletes recently when they talk on podcasts and they say that they're even some of them that make ridiculous amounts. Like I think one guy made like $100 million contract, some basketball player, but he only got 50, right? Because IRS and taxes and all that.
Yeah.
But those 50 were for 10 years, right? That was all the money he was going to get. And he's like, thank God for like Hollywood money and sponsorship money, because if not, he would have been bankrupt. You know what I mean? Because that was the money that he could actually use for himself, and then the other money he could invest.
Yeah.
The same principle with me is like, I might make a good amount from the restaurants, but I don't consider that my income. I consider my income all the properties that I have. That is my income. This is just the money I have to use to invest in that. Same thing with these, athletes that did make it. They got this money, but that went quick. But they had all this other money, sponsorships and, TV, different things they did, and that's the money they used to invest. So that's kind of like the principle I follow.
If you were to start over completely, let's say for example tomorrow you wake up and it's 15 years into the past and you're starting all over from scratch, would you do anything differently or would you do exactly the same?
With or without experience, because
You're
that's the
you're taking
important.
your experience.
Taking
You're
experience with me.
yeah. You're waking up just in 15 years younger.
Oh, that would be very easy. That would be very easy because I could go to any big city and just give them not even my resume, just tell them what I had and my experience I had, and I could start making six figures right away, and then I can use those six figures, a year or two, and then
Well, I'm
invest
saying
it.
if you know what you know, but your younger self, let's say you're 20 years old again, and you know the things that you know, but you're starting from scratch again. But those are things that you can't really kind of market. Would you start the businesses in the exact same way, or would you do something differently?
I mean, it's a tricky question because I would just invest in Dogecoin or Bitcoin. I wouldn't have done anything. I wouldn't have put myself and my health and my sacrifice, my family and everything to do restaurants when I could just put it all into Dogecoin and Bitcoin and then just retire when I'm 21. So that's a tricky question because if I knew what I knew now of everything and I
Yeah,
was younger, I would have just put it into the easiest thing. I wouldn't have put myself through this
yeah.
because
But it's a worthwhile investment now, looking back on it,
no, no, yeah, for sure.
for where you are now. But it's not. Everyone likes to think that people that make it are I hate this phrase. Must be nice. Must be nice to have this. Must be nice to have
Oh
that.
no,
But
it's
it comes with
hard.
a cost. Everything comes with a cost. Nice things don't just appear. I mean, for some people, whatever. Some people that either their parents are rich or whatever. For some people, they are just handed their wealth. But for people that are self-made, it's not nice.
Oh no, it's tough. I mean, sometimes I could probably look at people and be like, must be nice, and they got an inheritance or they made it off Bitcoin or something. But they still risk their money though. You got to think about it. They risk their money. They put it into whatever meme coin or cryptocurrency there was, and they made it. And that's what I try to tell people. It's risk. You have to take risk. That's the only way you can make more than everyone else. If you see everyone putting money in a 401k, what makes you think you're going to make more than the other 100 million people that are doing the same thing? No, you got to put it somewhere else. If you see people buying houses and doing 30-year mortgages and being tied up in a single location demographic, what makes you think that you doing that is going to make you successful? You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with people that do that. Like that's 100% fine. I'm just saying if you want to be different, what makes you think that doing the same things that everyone else is doing is going to make you different?
Yeah.
There's just no way. You have to go against the grain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to do things differently. If people are investing in 401ks, you should be taking massive risks in other things, even if you lose your money. But if you make it, you will make it 10x, 20, whatever, 100x what other people are doing.
Yeah. It's just that most people don't want to take that risk. They don't want to lose the comfort, almost in a sense of a 9 to 5, and as people like to say, getting plugged in the matrix. Just living that kind of day to day life. But being an owner takes risk.
It was scary. That's why people don't want to take it. I remember back then, me and my business partner, like we still were working. At the time, I was already in a management position. I was making probably $7,000 a month. So I was pretty comfortable, right? I had a nice car. I had money in the bank. I was making great income for that time. I was good. When I thought about my own business, I thought about it like, do I really want to leave this? That took me years to get to this, position. It was kind of like a yes and no thing.
Yeah.
But then they found out that me and my business partner were trying to open a restaurant, so they fired us. So when that happened, it was all in mode.
Yeah.
There was no more, should I do it, should I not? It's like all in. Whatever happens, happens. This money doesn't exist anymore. I'm going to put it in. If I lose it, I won't be depressed. I'll just do something else. But I'm going to try. But when I was working and I was making good money and I was comfortable, it was more like, do I take the jump? Do I not? And all the big names in business, you hear them a lot of times say like, "Oh yeah, I had a good tech job making 250,000 a year or something like that." So I didn't really want to leave. People thought I was crazy when I did, but then they made it big. So comfort is it's scary to lose the comfort because you work so hard to get to a certain position when you're doing good, and you might have some assets and you might have some money in the bank, but you can make 10x more if you really believe in yourself. So, but it's scary to leave that to take that jump. For me, it was more like, okay, well now there's nothing else. I got to go all in.
Yeah.
So it had to work. That was my mentality. It has to be. It has to work. Yeah, that's how it was.
Yeah. Comfort, I think, kills a lot of creativity, but also kind of passion as well. When you're in a comfortable space, you're just like, like why take the risk? Why take that next leap? But I think sometimes I think there's a certain element to people that are entrepreneurs, or a certain element to people that are business owners and start business, and they have a kind of like a, I don't want to call it an insatiable hunger, but almost in a sense like there's that kind of that drive that you want to build something, make something, and not necessarily because of the money or because of the success or whatever, because you just have a drive and a passion to make something awesome, and you want to kind of make a team and have that behind your name, almost in the sense of being able to like take ownership of it, if that makes sense. And I think it's a having these kind of conversations, and we only just started this podcast very recently, but I see this kind of commonality, this thread through people that are successful business owners, that are people that are running successful brands, or and that are there. There's just that hunger and desire to um, serve people, and at the same time take the risks to grow and expand and be able to um, be in a position to take those opportunities on. Um, but I find that, especially when it comes to kind of the vibe or atmosphere here in Syracuse. This is another question I love always asking. What's your thoughts on the future here? What are your thoughts on kind of we touched earlier upon we have the looming, hopefully the benefits of Micron coming in, but we see how much stuff is being invested into our community here in terms of new developments, new construction, redevelopment of old spaces. How are you kind of seeing that, being a restaurant, a venue in a sense, in downtown, and kind of what are you bringing to the table, almost in a sense? What are you doing in that atmosphere, almost in a way of the hope or the optimism when it comes to Syracuse.
Well, if people are hungry, we got to feed them. If people are stressed out at their jobs, they got to come have a drink, and that's kind of what we offer. But no, I think Syracuse is going to continue to grow. Just no doubt in my mind. Just how much investment is coming in, it's gonna be. I feel like the next 5 years are prosperous.
Any certain element that you would say is like a good benchmark of why we think Syracuse is going to grow?
Like all the investments coming in. I mean, you need more jobs are being created. More people are coming in. People that are getting high paid jobs are coming in. Technology stuff. So it's gonna grow with people, and more money comes in. More businesses need to be made. There's a lot of growth here. Yeah.
Awesome. Final final concluding kind of question here. Um, when it comes to creating a restaurant or a service based business, anything there, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to a business owner or someone that's looking to get into the space when it comes to starting a business that serves people?
There's so many advices because there's so many things that can go wrong. Get the experience first. Like get some experience. Start from the bottom. Do because that's what I did. I did all the jobs, and then have some kind of management position where you understand all the fundamentals from who washes dishes to who cuts the vegetables to who cooks, who manages the kitchen, serving, bartending, and who manages the front of the house. And then that way you have a idea of everything that needs to be done, and the things that can go wrong, because there's always things that like kind of when employees get promoted and like, oh, I remember we used to do this and the boss didn't know, or we used to do this and it was actually like this. Well, now I have to correct it because now I'm the one. If you don't go through all those steps, you won't be able to know who's throwing away silverware or who's stealing money from you or who's doing that. You have to do. That would be my piece of advice. Just try to do in whatever business you're in, all the positions that business has, and have some sort of management position skill, even if it's not for a long time, but just have the feel of it, have the experience. That would be the best advice I can give you. If you have the experience, you can go anywhere and start making money, and then using that money to open your own business because you have the experience, and all you need now is the money. But if you have the money and you have no experience, there's nothing you can do. You're gonna have to give sweat equity to someone else, and that's something you don't want to do. So that's the best advice I can give. Just get some experience.
Start from the bottom and
Yeah.
then
Mm-hmm.
work your way up the pyramid, up the ladder.
Exactly. That's best advice I can give somebody.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Alejandro, thank you for your
Oh,
time.
thank you.
I appreciate this. Guys, this is episode 6. We love having these conversations. We love meeting new people, new to us at least. I know Alejandro Margaritas, Incas, his brands here are definitely, when I say them out loud, people definitely know what I'm talking about. So we appreciate meeting people like this, local legends, as I like to refer to. If you have anyone that you'd like to suggest to us, anyone that you might know, please leave us a comment. And we hope to see you on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Thanks, and hope to see you guys in the next one.